On this episode of the Carolina Sports Guy, we're diving in and looking at the results, the predictions, and the scores from Week 9 of college football in the Carolinas. And we're also going to go ahead and preview Week 10 of college football in the Carolinas. Before we get into today's video, make sure you subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. Pound that like button, hit that bell notification, be notified of future content like this. And by all means, folks, leave me some comments. I sure love the dialogue. All right, folks, it's in the books. We got another week underway. I thought about doing a video for the 2 Thursday night games, but I had been under the weather really last week and had almost like had laryngitis. My voice is still not quite there, filled with congestion. So I'm battling through, and that's kind of cut down on my videos a little bit because the more you put out when you talk, it does kind of harm your vocal cords a little bit, but we're going to get through it. 2 games on Thursday night. I concentrated a little bit and saw Troy at Coastal Carolina, and I knew I had Coastal Carolina blowing Troy out, and it didn't happen. Coastal Carolina did win this game. They won 35-28. Every time Troy would seem like to come closer, pull closer, Coastal Carolina would pull away again or keep them just off where they could never come up and tie or take a lead. So Coastal Carolina, other than that recent loss to Appalachian State, they're setting themselves up pretty well for a bowl game. And like I said, their schedule's coming down now to where all they got to do is try to win out, and they're going to end up winning the Sun Belt. The other game I really did concentrate and watch more was USF, South Florida, playing at East Carolina. A little bit of rainy game, things going on there, ESPN game. And I had East Carolina winning, by 6, 23-17. Well, East Carolina ended up winning 29-14 in this affair. It was close for a while. I mean, you're talking about a game that was, like at one time I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was 14-13 USF. But East Carolina kind of battled back. One kind of dominated in the second half, kind of pulled away. I tell you what, the East Carolina's team, they've really not been well. The coaches who've been let go, the past couple coaches, Scotty Montgomery and when Ruffin McNeil was there, they left the cupboards pretty bare. And it's kind of difficult to build from that. And I know Scotty Montgomery got some good recruits in, but just never could turn the tide with Ruffin McNeil's guys. East Carolina's now starting to get bigger linemen. It's very impressive. They're still getting some pretty good studs playing receiver and different positions. And I'm telling you, folks, East Carolina's going to turn it around. They might not be a 10-2 team or anything like that in the American, but if some of these schools leaving and a new one's coming in, East Carolina can grab the bull by the horns if they keep the coach. And, I think they got a good chance to finish over 500 being a bowl this year. Remember, they had a close loss to South Carolina and then also had another close loss, I believe, they used in the overtime game. So they pretty much played a lot better, I should say, than the last few years. And I think next year will really be a turning point for them. Next, we got Louisiana Monroe playing at Appalachian State, and I had a feeling Appalachian State was going to thrash them. I only had a 17-point win for them. But, man, Appalachian State beat ULM 59-28. Not really much of a contest. ULM was probably one of the weaker schools in the Sun Belt. I bet Louisiana Tech now wishes they wouldn't have left, because they're a better school basketball, football-wise, and now they're kind of left on that island. But anyway, Appalachian State, they're really going to need help. They need Coastal to drop another one. But I think App State can do it. I think App State can kind of prevail and at least get to a bowl game. All right, folks, then we had Florida State playing at Clemson. And I know Clemson's lost some tough games lately. Florida State has struggled. But I did feel like being in Clemson that they would win, double digits, and that they did. They won 30-20. Clemson wins over Florida State, but the game was closer in hand than what you might have thought. I feel like struggling Clemson this year is not the same struggle as what Florida State's been in the funk for a few years. Now, the really big game I did watch Saturday was Duke at Wake Forest. I know Duke has struggled lately. They can put it together once in a while, but Wake Forest has been on a tear. They have averaged like at least 35 or more points a game this year in every game. And I know they played Norfolk State and Old Dominion, but man, they had beaten some other good quality teams. They had that shootout with Army last week at West Point. But Wake Forest jumped out early in this game. I want to say it was like, 38-0 at halftime, or pretty close. But Wake Forest ends up winning this game 45-7. Hartman looks great at quarterback again for them. It's going to be a big showdown coming up this week in this next game. Now, UNC at Notre Dame. I said Notre Dame would win by 7. Well, Notre Dame won by 10. I didn't. Something about Carolina is not playing well against Notre Dame. They can't get rid of a hump. And they keep trying, but Notre Dame just seems to be a tad bit better. And Carolina's up and down. When they put it together, they can beat almost anybody, but they did lose a lot of talent from last year. Now, I had NC State beating Louisville 34-21. 13-point state win. Well, state wins by 15 points, 28-13. I felt this is a year the state's going to have. I'm kind of anxious to see in a couple weeks when Wake hosts NC State what's going to happen, because I think that's going to be a critical ball game right there, folks. And finally, Saturday's game, we had Charlotte playing at Western Kentucky. And I thought Western Kentucky would win a close one, 23-20. Charlotte was coming off an impressive victory, but I just had a feeling that, they'd be let down. But Western Kentucky spanked Charlotte, and it was 45-13. So that's kind of hurting Charlotte a little bit as they try to approach a bowl. All right, now, I want to kind of pay and focus attention, because South Carolina was off this past weekend. This coming up weekend, East Carolina's got Temple coming into Greenville. And this is really a game East Carolina cannot afford to drop. Not that East Carolina's going to be a pushover, but it's a game if East Carolina plays their card right, they should win. And I've got East Carolina beating Temple 26-19. Now, the real big game here, folks. Wake Forest goes into UNC. This is a game I wouldn't be surprised if UNC won. But if Wake plays like they have lately, now, if they play like they did against Army and score all those points, but UNC's got a better defense. And if Wake's defense plays like they did against Army, Carolina's got enough offensive talent to explode. I do think Wake Forest is going to win this game, but I think the point total is going to come down, and I think Wake is going to win 28-21. Pitt at Duke. Pitt's been up and down, but they've had a pretty good year. They beat some good teams this year. Duke's definitely been up and down, mainly down. And I see Pitt beating Duke 31-17 in this affair. Appalachian State's going to Arkansas State. Well, for some reason, Arkansas State's played up and down this year. I think they're pretty good, but Appalachian State, this is a chance they've got to win a Sun Belt game on the road, and I think Appalachian State will beat Arkansas State 28-20. Rice at Charlotte. Now, look, Rice last week upset UAB, and that's pretty big in Conference USA. Charlotte got thumped by Western Kentucky, but since this game's in Charlotte, I'm going to say Charlotte's going to pull out the stop. They need a victory like this, and I think they'll beat Rice 24-21. Now, NC State's going to Florida State, and Florida State struggled. NC State looks really good. They had the 1-point loss to Miami. They did lose on the road to Mississippi State, but other than that, NC State looks pretty good. But I do have NC State winning this game at Tallahassee, but I have it a closer score than what many people think. I think NC State's only going to win 26-23 over Florida State. Now, South Carolina gets back in action this week in the SEC. They're one of the weaker schools in the SEC. I don't think it's going to help them any. I think Florida is going to handle South Carolina. It is actually in South Carolina. Florida's going to win this game 31-16. Clemson's playing Louisville. Well, Louisville could pull a surprise and scare here, but I think Clemson's kind of coming up a little bit after licking their wounds. Clemson's going to win 27-17. And finally, folks, Coastal Carolina. They're going to play Georgia Southern. But this isn't the same Georgia Southern team as normal. I think they're got a little bit of issues, and they've dropped some games. They're not as strong as normal. So I think Coastal Carolina will win on the road, and they'll win 35-20 over Georgia Southern. So, folks, what do you think of this video? What game were you surprised with the most, or did you enjoy the most? I really like Wake Forest's offense, folks. I'm telling you, there's something behold. I wonder if they're going to be able to score 30-some points against Carolina. who you're disappointed with. I was kind of disappointed when I look at these games, folks, how Carolina once again just can't get over the hump to beat Notre Dame. Just can't. And I'm really looking forward to the Temple East Carolina game this week. I think that's big, but definitely that Duke Wake Forest. I mean the Wake Forest at UNC game is very big on the calendar, I think. So leave me some comments, pound that like button, hit that bell notification for future videos like this on college sports in the Carolinas. And by all means, folks, subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. We'll see you next time on another edition of Carolina Sports Guy.